Since December 2020, the government of Bangladesh started the mammoth task of relocating Rohingya refugees from the crowded camps of Cox's Bazar to this newly built facility. In total, about 100,000 Rohingya refugees will be relocated here to Bhasan Char. This is a one-of-a-kind facility built over the course of 3 years by the Bangladeshi Navy. What is at stake for the country of Bangladesh? Why is this plan considered controversial?
This is the remote island of Bhasan Char, the new hope of the Rohingya refugees that have fled from Myanmar into Bangladesh. Hello and welcome, I'm Johan Castell and I'm giving you a ground report from Bhasan Char in Bangladesh.
Being a street photographer and a journalist, I have always loved to explore new places. So when this opportunity to visit Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh first came up, I was immediately intrigued. The Rohingya refugee situation has been described as one of the worst humanitarian and human rights crises of our times, and I wanted to meet these people and hear their stories. I'm based in New Delhi. My first destination in Bangladesh is Cox's Bazar, in the southern east part of the country.
Did you know that 4 years ago, Cox's Bazar, now synonymous with Rohingya refugees, was known as Bangladesh's most famous tourism site, thanks to this natural sea beach. This is in fact the longest natural sea beach anywhere in the world. But things changed in 2017.
Facing persecution, more than 730,000 Rohingya fled Myanmar. The brutal crackdown by the Myanmar army left thousands of Rohingya Muslims dead and shocked the world. The mass exodus saw more Rohingya refugee people joining thousands of Rohingya Muslims already staying in Cox's Bazar. As they arrived, the authorities cleared forests and built shelters from mud and bamboo to create a sprawling mass of camps that now house more than 860,000 people, of which 80% are women and children. The camp is located about 40 kilometers away from the main city of Cox's Bazar. I could see the barbed wire fences from much before we reached the main gate.
We have almost reached the camp. It's a bit of a traffic jam on the way leading up to the gate.
I'm already getting a sense of just how massive the camp is going to be, and how densely populated.
There are two main camps in Cox's Bazar, the Kutupalong refugee camp and the Nayapara refugee camp. I am in the Kutupalong refugee camp right now, where there are many different aid agencies set up providing relief for the refugees. In this particular camp, there is an estimated 860,000 refugees. The United Nations warns that up to 500,000 refugees living here are at risk of exploitation. And with the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, the challenges have increased many folds. There are 860,000 people living in this camp on an area of just 26 square kilometers, with up to 10 family members living in each room, which makes it impossible to implement social distancing. Let's take you further. There are many other challenges. The employment opportunities are limited in Cox's Bazar. Things like human trafficking, drug dealing, and theft. It's a huge challenge for Bangladeshi authorities. Smile. I saw you. Thank you. So from 2017 to 2019, there was an estimated 91,000 children that were born in this camp, according to a UN survey. This is obviously leading to a huge concern if the population continues to grow in this manner. This is something that aid agencies and the Bangladeshi government are working hard on to curtail.
The Kutupalong refugee settlement has grown to become the largest of its kind in the world. Providing basic amenities such as food, water and medicines is a huge challenge. And despite best efforts by the Bangladesh government, the infrastructure is stretched to the limit. So what's the solution? Perhaps this. Basanchar is roughly 123 kilometers away from Cox's Bazar. Formed by Himalayan silt in 2006, the island spans about 40 square kilometers. The Bangladeshi government has been getting the island ready to host about 100,000 Rohingya refugees. It's a temporary relief facility meant to house them until their repatriation to Myanmar. To understand more about this project, I met those who are closely involved with it.
This land is not enough to accommodate 1 million people. It is congested, this is mostly hilly, and there are real fears of landslide, of epidemic that due to congestions. Mercifully, nothing of that sort has happened. So the idea was to decongest the camps. Since we have no other space in Bangladesh, you can go around Bangladesh, there isn't a open space anywhere where we could have relocated them. So an opportunity came because we have an island which has been reserved for naval use and military exercises. our Prime Minister, again out of concern for the inhabitants of the camp, at a very considerable cost, built some accommodations to accommodate up to 100,000 people on the island. It is strictly a temporary measure, but eventually the answer is not Bhashanchar. The answer is the Rohingyas must go back to their home. That's where they belong, and that's where they want to go. They are ready to go today. Their only condition is they want to go in safety and in dignity.
It's a cyclone-prone area, along the threat of earthquake, fire, or landslide. For this reason, for the sake of safety and security, government have decided to relocate some portion of these Rohingya people.
So the island is safer than the
Much
Cox's
more
Bazar
safer and well organized.
Right.
We made it well organized. If you compare the situation here, what is prevailing here, there in the large camps, every 22 people using one toilet.
Yeah.
But in Bhashanchar, they have the toilet facility for 9 to 11 people for one toilet.
I want to get a better understanding of how risky these shelter houses are.
So I've been informed that 10 people that lived in this house have been moved now to Bhasanchar. Looks like a bedroom over here and a kitchen over here, but very small structure. Pretty fragile too, made of bamboo and plastic for a roof. Would be a pretty scary place to be during the monsoon. And on Bhasanchar, the structure should be a lot more stable and tough for such weather. This looks like the kitchen area over here. Imagine cooking for 10 people in this crammed space. This room here would have been the bedroom, about 2 by 3 meters large, tiny for 10 people. There are some face masks around here to help protect them from the COVID-19 pandemic, but the social distancing is definitely impossible.
Before I move out of this camp though, I want to meet some Rohingyas to find out how they feel about their upcoming relocation.
Everyone wants to live in their own country. In Cox's Bazar, a lot of people live together. It gets very cramped as the camp is quite small and not suitable for so many people.
I heard that people who have moved to Bhasanchar are living freely. I too want to enjoy the same feeling.
I've heard and read reports of how Bangladesh is literally forcing the Rohingyas to move to the island against their wishes, but these people prove otherwise. Now I'm going to visit the island to see what it's like with my own eyes.
This ship is called the LCU-4, which stands for Landing Craft Utility. There are 6 of these ships that are all made in Bangladesh, and it's been specially fitted to have room for the Rohingya refugees being relocated from Cox's Bazar to Bhasanchar. They can fit up to 320 refugees per ship, and making up for a total of about 1,500–1,600 refugees per day of relocation efforts, which is certainly what's required if you're going to relocate 100,000 refugees.
As we approach the island, I notice that it is surrounded by mangroves. And then these wave breakers catch my eye. Such structures are used to reduce the intensity of wave action in inshore waters. It's a measure taken by the Bangladeshi Navy to protect the island from high waves during extreme weather conditions. Before heading inside the island, I make a quick stop at this long embankment that has been made to protect the island from flooding during cyclones.
This embankment on my side here is 9 feet tall and has been built for 12.1 kilometers all around the cluster housing on Bhasan Char Island. They've also constructed a lighthouse so that ships can navigate to Bhasan Char at nighttime.
We have spent several years building embankments high enough to protect the highest level of waves that the region has experienced. We had a cyclone last year. Bhasan Char was totally unaffected. And in the island, the facilities are modest. This is not a tourist resort or a 5-star hotel, but it is safe, it is clean, and it is adequate.
These red cluster houses may look humble, but the layout has been planned well, and they are safe. The idea is to encourage self-reliance. Be it poultry, sheep farming, buffalo farming, and even kitchen gardening. I must say that I'm quite impressed by the facilities that I see. The island also has a number of warehouses to keep food grains safe.
This warehouse is one of 3 warehouses they've built on this island for storing food. It's quite impressive. It's about 200 feet long, 28 feet from the ceiling to the floor, and 70 feet wide. There's a lot of food they can store in here. And I was informed that they've already distributed enough food to last them for 1 month.
I think it's fair to say that Bhasan Char is like a mini township. It has helipads, community clinics, and 2 hospitals.
So as you know that this cluster house area, out of 13,000 acres of the land, this is the high ground. Right. So we have chosen this area to make the cluster houses. So apart from that, each cluster houses, each has got 1 shelter. There is 120 shelter.
Right.
So
like the one we're standing on right now.
Yeah, exactly. And each shelter is built 14 feet above the ground level. You know, Bangladesh is a monsoon country, and we are used to it that. Yeah. And you know that last 2 years we faced about 3 cyclonic warning that like Amphan, Bulbul, Fani. So all the 3 during these 3 cyclonic storm, the water level was only 3 to 4 feet. It remained outside the embankments.
I've seen that you have solar panels everywhere and solar lights. Would you like to talk about the sustainability and like is this place self-sustained when it comes to power generation, or do you have to have generators running? Or?
Actually, we have a 1 megawatt solar hybrid solar plant, and in addition 2 megawatt generator for the centralized system.
I see.
But apart from that, we have separate each house and shelters has got the separate solar for the day and night services.
So I reached the freshwater lake, which is a lake that they have constructed here for the Rohingya refugees to be able to use their traditional skills like fishing. As they come from a coastal area in Myanmar originally, fishing is a skill set they've developed. The biggest fish I've seen them catch is only about this big.
This fresh lake is our source of food. The Bangladesh government has allowed us to fish in the lake. It is a very good opportunity for us.
A few steps away, I find myself at a school where informal education is underway. It is estimated that there are nearly 400,000 school-aged Rohingya children in Bangladesh's refugee camps. Most fled the Myanmar military's brutal campaign of ethnic cleansing. Thousands were born in these camps, their futures paralyzed by a state of uncertainty. Hopefully they will find some semblance of normality here at Bhasan Char.
So I'm in the middle of the cluster housing on Bhasan Char. All of these are brand new constructions, and it's very easy to see which ones are the ones that are waiting for refugees to move in and which ones have people living there. They have their fishing nets out to dry, they have their laundry out to dry. There's kids running around everywhere. Hey, 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 salam alaikum. Yeah. It's a shame to see how Myanmar has kicked these people out. They have not let them have, they've not acknowledged their ethnicity. They've not let them have their state. They've completely kicked them out. And even the repatriation back to Myanmar has been completely non-functional. So now what the Bangladeshi government has done is to do a relocation of their own, to move people from the overcrowded Cox's Bazar over here to Bhasan Char. So this is one of the courtyards for the cluster housing. Each cluster contains 12 different buildings, where each building has 16 rooms. They're also constructed 4 feet above the ground, so that if there is heavy rainfall or when the monsoon comes, this has a 4 feet clearing, so that they will never have to worry about water flowing into their homes. Each courtyard is also set up a little bit differently for each one of the 3 different courtyards for each cluster. Here they've built a few different separations, perhaps for having chickens or such things. There's a pond here in the middle, which this courtyard has. This is a quite important structure for this cluster. It's a steel shelter, and it can house over 1,000 people. When I was first seeing the blueprints of how this was laid out, I was concerned if there would be enough space for so many people and for food production and such things. But now that I'm seeing that they can cultivate their own food even within, right where they live, right next to their house, to have chicken and to have vegetables growing right outside their house, it's quite impressive. Compare this to Cox's Bazar, that is severely overcrowded. There's no space, no chance of having your own garden, of having animals running around. It's a completely different world. This is exactly what's needed if they're going to have a decent lifestyle.
We women are very happy here. Our children can finally go to school. This island is spacious and we can move freely. The roads too are very well planned.
I had a tarpaulin tent in Cox's Bazar, but now I am living in a concrete shelter in Bhasan Char. My children can play in the open here. The island is spacious and we are very happy here.
Interacting with dozens of Rohingya people has been such a huge learning experience for me, and meeting those who are responsible for their relocation has given me faith that they are in safe hands.
Can I take one photo?
My stay here is almost over, but before I go, I want to go and meet the island's football team.
I'm joining the red team. I'm a bit scared because the blue team looks pretty strong. Alaikum salam.
Look at these boys, they are so talented and exuding hope.
We're happy that you came here to play football with us. It was indeed a wonderful experience.
It's important to remember that the Rohingya people have been driven out from their villages in Myanmar. That is their real home, and Myanmar needs to be held accountable for its crimes against these people. It also needs to bring them back, and repatriation will only happen if there is enough international pressure.
We really need to start the process of repatriation. So now the general elections are over last year in Myanmar. So our hope is that Myanmar will act very actively so that the process of repatriation will start this year in 2021.
So I sincerely hope that the Rohingya issue does not become the second Palestinian issue. So what I believe is that the international community has to do more, much more.
The solution is ultimately repatriation back to their homes. The responsibility lies in Myanmar, not in Bangladesh. And it is for the international community to work with us to make sure that conditions are such in Myanmar that these people can go back, live safely with good human dignity. And that is the challenge for us.
As I come to the end of my visit to Bhasan Char, it is time to go to my favorite spot here, the lighthouse, from where I can see the entire expanse of the island.
I have reached the top of the lighthouse, and that marks the end of this ground report from Bhasan Char in Bangladesh. Just look at this endless development, the amazing infrastructure they have here. They've really put a lot of work and effort and planning into designing and executing this extensive plan. Ultimately, the goal for the Rohingyas is to get repatriated back to Myanmar, where they came from. But at least this new location will give them the opportunity to have a semblance of a life in the meantime until repatriation happens.